The bags are packed. The destination is set. 2 weeks of freedom, of sunshine, of leaving all your worries behind. It's the annual summer vacation, a time for creating memories that will last a lifetime. But what happens when those memories are not of joy, but of pure, cold dread? What happens when the place you've chosen to escape to becomes a place you can't escape from? The stories you're about to hear are not from a horror movie. They are inspired by real events that happened to people just like you. People who thought they were heading for paradise, but found a nightmare instead. Tonight, we have 3 stories of summer vacations gone horribly wrong. So, lock your doors and turn down the lights. This is going to be a long night. Story 1. The House on the Hill. Our first story comes from a couple, Mark and Sarah, who wanted nothing more than a quiet anniversary getaway. They found what they thought was the perfect spot, a charming yet isolated cabin nestled in the hills of New England, miles from the nearest town. It was old, rustic, and according to the online listing, had a unique historical charm. The first night was perfect. A crackling fire, a bottle of wine, the kind of deep, uninterrupted quiet you can only find far away from the city. But as they lay in bed, a faint sound drifted up from the floor below. A slow, rhythmic tapping, tap, tap, tap. Mark dismissed it. Old houses settle, he said. Pipes groan. But the sound was too deliberate, too precise. It went on for nearly an hour before finally stopping. The next day, trying to shake off the unease, they went for a hike. Deep in the woods behind the cabin, they found a small, overgrown family cemetery. Most of the headstones were so worn you couldn't read them, but one, newer than the rest, had a single name, Eliza. There was no date, just the name. They felt a sudden chill, a feeling of being watched, and quickly made their way back to the house. That night, the tapping returned, but it was different. It wasn't coming from downstairs anymore. It was coming from inside their bedroom closet. Mark, determined to prove it was nothing, slowly got out of bed and approached the old wooden door. He threw it open, expecting to find a raccoon in the walls or some other logical explanation. The closet was empty, but the air that came out of it was freezing cold and carried a faint, sweet smell like dried flowers. And there, scratched into the inside of the closet door, were hundreds of tiny marks. Tally marks, arranged in groups of 5, as if someone had been counting the days locked inside. They decided to leave first thing in the morning. As they packed in a panic, Sarah went to use the bathroom. She glanced in the mirror and screamed. For a split second, reflected behind her, she saw the figure of a pale young woman in a tattered dress, her eyes dark and empty. When Sarah blinked, she was gone. They didn't wait for sunrise. They threw their bags in the car and sped away, leaving the isolated cabin and its secrets behind. They never found out who Eliza was or what she was counting down to. But sometimes, in the dead of night, Mark swears he can still hear that faint tapping sound, a chilling reminder of the house on the hill. Story 2. The Silent Beach. Our next story takes us to the sun-drenched coast of Mexico. 4 college friends, looking for a cheap and adventurous spring break, decided to drive down and camp on a remote, unnamed beach they'd heard about from a friend of a friend. It was miles of pristine sand, turquoise water, and absolutely no one else in sight. It was perfect, a true escape. For 2 days, it was paradise. They swam, surfed, and sat around the campfire at night, feeling like they were the only people on Earth. But it's on the 3rd afternoon that things began to change. One of the friends, Liam, was walking down the beach, collecting shells, while the others napped. He noticed how quiet it was. Not just peaceful quiet, but a profound, eerie silence. No birds, no insects. Even the sound of the waves seemed muffled and distant. That's when he saw it. Far down the shoreline, almost at the horizon, was a figure. A man, just standing and watching him. Liam waved, but the man didn't move. He was too far away to make out any details, but his stillness was unnerving. Liam felt a prickle of unease and headed back to his friends. When he looked back moments later, the man was gone. He tried to brush it off, not wanting to scare his friends. But that night, the eerie silence was broken. Around their campfire, they started hearing noises from the dunes behind them. The snap of a twig, a soft cough. They'd call out, thinking it was a local or another camper, but they'd get no reply. Just more silence. The next morning, they found footprints circling their campsite, barefoot, and they weren't from any of them. The prints came from the dunes, walked a wide circle around their tents, and then went back into the dunes. The feeling of paradise was gone, replaced by a gnawing sense of being watched, of being prey. They decided to pack up and leave immediately. As they were loading their car, one of them, Chloe, let out a gasp. She was pointing to the top of a large sand dune overlooking the beach. Standing there were now 4 figures, perfectly still, just watching them. They didn't move, they didn't wave, they just stood there, silhouetted against the bright morning sun. The friends didn't need any more encouragement. They jumped in their car and drove for hours without stopping, never looking back. They never learned who those silent watchers were or what they wanted. But they learned that sometimes the most beautiful places hide the darkest secrets, and that being completely alone isn't always a good thing. Story 3. The Souvenir. For our final story, a family on a summer tour through Eastern Europe learned that some things are better left behind. The Peterson family, David, Maria, and their 10-year-old son, Alex, were visiting a sprawling, ancient flea market in a historic city square. It was a chaotic, beautiful place filled with antiques, trinkets, and forgotten treasures. Alex, fascinated by all the strange and wonderful items, was drawn to one particular stall. Tucked away in the back, half hidden under a dusty cloth, was a small, hand-carved wooden doll. It was old, with button eyes and a crudely stitched smile. The old woman running the stall seemed hesitant to sell it, muttering something in a language they didn't understand. But David, seeing how much his son wanted it, insisted. He paid her a few coins, and the doll was theirs. They thought nothing more of it. It was just a creepy, cute souvenir. But when they got to their next hotel, strange things started to happen. That night, Alex woke his parents up, complaining of nightmares. He said the doll was whispering to him from the foot of his bed. Maria, trying to soothe him, moved the doll into the main room, placing it on the mantelpiece. An hour later, they were woken up by a crash. The doll was on the floor, on the other side of the room, far from where she had placed it. David chalked it up to a draft or an unstable mantle, but they couldn't shake the feeling of deep unease. It was when they got back home to the United States that the activity escalated. It started small, doors creaking open on their own, the TV turning on and off. Then, they began to hear faint whispering at night, seeming to come from Alex's room. One evening, Maria was tidying up and found the doll sitting in her jewelry box, wearing one of her necklaces. She was certain she had left it on a shelf in the living room. The breaking point came a week later. David was working from home in his office when he heard Alex giggling in the hallway. "Who are you talking to, buddy?" he called out. Alex replied from his room, "The funny man from my new toy." David's blood ran cold. He walked into the hallway and saw Alex playing with his action figures. The wooden doll was sitting propped against the wall, facing his office door. And for a terrifying moment, David could have sworn he saw its button eyes slowly turn to look at him. That night, David took the doll, drove to a secluded bridge, and threw it into the river below. They never spoke of it again. The strange occurrences in their house stopped immediately. The family learned a valuable lesson that summer, that sometimes the most innocent-looking souvenir can carry with it a history, a presence you don't want to bring into your home. A remote cabin, a silent beach, a haunted doll. 3 vacations that started as dreams and ended as enduring nightmares. It makes you wonder what's waiting for you on your next trip away from home. The world is full of strange and unexplainable things, and sometimes You find them when you least expect it. If you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more tales of the unexplained, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. And if you have your own scary vacation story, share it with us in the comments below. Until next time, travel safely. And whatever you do, don't forget to check under the bed.